So I'm just going to walk through the steps required to launch a subreddit point smart contract and interact with it through the dashboard. So we'd actually start here with a subreddit point smart contract. And this is essentially an ERC20 token. I think the specification was reduced to match just what we need for the subreddit point itself. And you would start by deploying a new instance of this smart contract. So normally, I would click this button here, and I would sign and submit contract deployment transaction using the HSM. So normally you'd be using MetaMask. And if you were to sign using MetaMask, you would have to confirm through, well, first of all, you'd have to have the MetaMask extension. But what the HSM functionality allows for is for you to simply fire and forget, so to speak. Submit the HSM transaction directly to Multibass and have the enterprise wallet sign this transaction, submit it to the blockchain. So having deployed the smart contract, we would find ourselves back at this page, and we would have an address, a deployment address for this subreddit point smart contract. But in order to distribute, just due to the architecture of the community points distribution system, there's an additional smart contract which you must deploy, which is the distribution smart contract. And once we deploy it, you can see we have to specify the address of the smart contract. So these are essentially the parameters to the constructor of the distribution contract. So we specify the subreddit point contract, which is the contract we would have just deployed, the decay percent, since each subsequent round of point minting results in a reduced supply, and the owner, which is us in this case, the address deploying the system. So having done that, you would deploy the distribution smart contract. And then, since the distribution contract is actually what mints new tokens, we would set the subreddit point smart contract to be the owner of, we would set the distribution contract to be the owner of the subreddit point smart contract. And we would do this by calling the transfer ownership function. And for the new owner, we would specify the address of the distribution contract. Having done that, we would arrive basically in this state where this distribution contract, 0xDEF, is set as the owner of this subreddit point smart contract, right? So now we have one smart contract, which the distribution smart contract, which is the owner and will be interacting with the subreddit point smart contract. While we're in this view, we can also take a look at what's going on the Ethereum side of the of the OMG network. So we have the payment exit game, which is how you exit the OMG network. We have the Plasma framework, which is the smart contract which basically ties the other smart contracts together. And we have two vaults, right? So we have the ERC20 vault, which is the smart contract into which we would be depositing ERC20 tokens on Ethereum in order for those ERC20 tokens, in order for those assets to become available on the OMG network. And on the ERC20 vault, as you can see, we have this deposit method. which requires an RLP encoded transaction that acts as a deposit. So take note of this, right? This would actually be hex code, right? An RLP encoded transaction to normally deposit funds, but I'll show you how we managed to simplify that through our dashboard. Right. So what have we done so far? We've deposited this. We've deployed a subreddit point smart contract. We've deployed a distribution contract, and we've set the distribution contract to be the owner of the subreddit point smart contract. Having done so, we would add the distribution contract up here. For simplicity, I'm just going to select the last one we had. And pardon me, there's one more step I missed, and that is initializing the distribution. And we do this by calling the init round method of the distribution smart contract, which is essentially creating the first round of distribution. So you would create 1 million new tokens and submit it. While we're here, we can also take a quick look at the one useful feature. So briefly switching back to the subreddit point smart contract, you may notice that there are 18 decimals to this ERC20 token. So what that means is this total supply here. This looks like an absurdly long number, right? But in fact, it's just 1 million. So here I can demo the decimals type conversion. Update that. And there we go. So now we are correctly shifting the decimals in the total supply to match what is specified by the smart contract as the total number of decimals. Great. So having done so, in the distribution, we would start off by initializing the round. So what I did previously was I minted 1 million tokens. Sign and submit that using the HSM. And having done so, you are ready to mint and distribute points through the dashboard. For day-to-day interactions, you would simply call the advanced next round function of the distribution smart contract. And this would allow subreddit moderators to mint new points and prepare them for distribution. Here we can also see the subreddit point smart contract, which could be useful for other interactions. Having minted the points through the distribution smart contract, we would need to next approve the ERC20 vault to spend a certain amount of points on our behalf. So what I did previously is I approved the ERC20 vault to withdraw 1 million tokens from the distribution contract to the ERC20 vault. I think we should be able to take a brief look here. Okay, no, they already moved. But perhaps we can take a look at this instead. So I'm just going to get the address of the ERC20 vault and the balance of this. There we go. So the ERC20 vault is holding this token on behalf of us and making it available on the OMG network. Currently with this smart contract, the distribution was already complete. So those points are no longer held by us and have been distributed to other addresses. But having first authorized the subreddit point, having authorized the ERC20 vault to spend our tokens on our behalf, withdraw our tokens on our behalf, you would next call the deposit method of the ERC20 vault smart contract, where you can simply specify how many tokens you would like to deposit into the OMG network. And remember previously where I showed that, in fact, the deposit method accepts basically hex data, which is an RLP encoded transaction, deposit transaction. Here on the dashboard, we've abstracted it in such a way that instead of having to compute this transaction yourself, you just need to specify the amount of the token you wish to shift, wish to move rather, to the ERC20 vault. So once again, you would submit the HSM transaction, and under normal circumstances, if the ROPS network was working correctly, after a couple of blocks, that deposit would become reflected within the OMG network, and we would see this balance appear. And having done that, we can distribute, right? So an amount, an address, add to recipient list, distribute all. And thanks to the power of the OMG network, the ERC20 token deposit would quickly become available to the list of recipients as specified through this dashboard. So that wraps up the demo of the OMG network Reddit points, subreddit points, community points dashboard.